Welcome to Caffeinated Flicks. I'm Celeste.
And I'm Kenzie. We're two chicks who drink coffee
and celebrate flicks from diverse directors.
If you like what you're hearing so far, take a moment to follow us in your favorite podcasting app.
And give us a rating or review. Here's the show.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
We are officially back from our break now.
Yes. We were officially back 1 episode ago, but that was my bad.
That's okay. It's not your fault. It's fine.
No, it kind of is. I didn't look at the schedule.
I'm trying to give you the benefit of the doubt here. I made it work. That's the benefit of podcasting is, you can record whichever episode at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you were telling me that you've been to the airport a whole bunch, and I'm going to the airport tomorrow. So
everybody's traveling right now.
Gotta get that last minute summer travel in,
Yes. And you're going on Labor Day weekend. So at least you don't have to use an extra day of PTO.
I don't. I'm taking off tomorrow, which is Thursday and Friday. Mm-hmm. So I'm taking off at least 2 days. But Monday, I don't have to take off.
Because it's Labor Day. Yeah. So I always I'm like, oh, that's smart to plan travel around 3-day holidays or holiday weekends, whatever. But isn't you would think, isn't travel more expensive and then hotels are more expensive because they know everybody's going to take advantage of them?
Probably. And just the influx of people, it's just busy.
Everything's busy.
Yeah. I don't think my flights were too expensive, but to be fair, I'm just flying to San Antonio, so it's like a 2-hour flight. So
true. Oh, I'm so excited for you. My mom and I loved San Antonio. I was very surprised.
I think you told me that.
Yeah. We had our expectations.
Yeah. I've heard good things about Austin, and now I've heard good things about San Antonio from you. But I'm not sure about anywhere else per se. I just hear Texas is Texas. So.
That's so weird, dude. So
yeah. So we'll see.
It should be fun. I'm excited for you.
But I will report back.
Please do. We'll drink lots of coffee out there.
I will. I'm sure. I will be drinking lots of beverages of all sorts. Between alcoholic beverages, caffeine beverages, and hopefully some water. I'm not entirely sure if I'll actually remember to hydrate, but we will see.
So I saw a pumpkin spice espresso martini drink online.
Oh, I saw that too.
I wanted to send it to you, but it was on TikTok, and I know you're not.
Yeah. You didn't really share a TikTok.
Yeah, you can, but when you send it through, it just shows up like a link.
Yeah.
It's not attractive. Seeing that on my message. Just don't send it.
That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. That's the only way that I ever know about any TikToks, because my dad and Beth and Chase also like to just send me TikTok links. And so I'll just click on TikTok links, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but I'm trusting the senders.
You just need to get on it already, Kenzie. Just cave already. Just
cave. I've been holding out for 4 years.
It's time.
Is it?
Yes.
I remain skeptical. Oh, but what goes in this pumpkin spice espresso martini?
Oh, I have no idea. I just thought
that's helpful.
It was really pretty. It looked like it had a bit of the pumpkin cold foam on top. It's a beautiful drink and looked very tasty.
I've seen a lot of frozen espresso martinis lately. Have you seen those?
I haven't seen those.
It's like a mudslide meets an espresso martini.
Ooh, that sounds tasty.
Chocolate. But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. My friend Erica, who I'm going to go see, her go-to drink is an espresso martini. And so anytime that I see anything that's an espresso martini, I'm like, look, it's you.
It's you. It's your drink.
I saw, I think it was Bailey's was promoting a red velvet espresso martini. Because apparently, I was like, that looks decadent. And it's pink. Oh, it was because of the Barbie movie.
Oh. We went to, oh my gosh, we went to Postino's and we saw that they had like a Barbie themed drink, but they ran out.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. I was so bummed, but it looked so tasty.
Do you remember what was in it?
No, it just looked berry-licious. There was a lot of berries going on.
You're like, I just need my fruit.
Yeah, we didn't even see it on sign. It was just like a big sign when you walked in.
Gosh.
We're like, we want the drink
That's
that's by the door. They're like, no, we've been out of that.
Like, it's been days.
So
But...
they're like, get over it. Barbie, so last week. Stop. Enough already.
How many times have you seen it now?
I only saw it the once.
Oh my gosh, I thought you would have
I
seen it like 3
know.
times by now.
No, I didn't. I did want to go watch it because it was National Movie Day or something like that recently. And
Ah.
AMC was doing like $4 tickets.
What the shit?
I know, but I was busy that day, so that didn't happen. But I hear
Such
it's
is
coming
life.
to, I don't know what streaming service it is, but I think it's next month. That's supposed to be coming out again. So when
Oh,
it does, I'll
wow.
watch it again. I know.
Okay.
I feel like movies are going to streaming services like super fast now.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of the like, SAG, like the SAG and the Writers Guilds are protesting. It's just like
Yeah.
the ability to be paid for the work that they've put in, you know, and to be able to receive those residuals. So,
Yeah. All that. There was, I didn't look too much into it, but I saw online that apparently there was one studio that agreed to their terms. And so they're working again. It's A24, I believe. Don't quote me.
yeah.
But yeah, the one they primarily do like horror movies. So that's really cool. So
Horror
hopefully-
movies, they're here for us.
Yeah. So
Getting
hopefully the rest
time.
of them follow and see.
Right. They're like, okay, we're hitting our busiest season of October here shortly. We need to agree to these quickly.
Right? And especially because I think one of them just raised their prices again.
Oh, wow.
Probably Netflix. I don't know. But I was like, really?
It would not shock me at all.
Right? Just being stingy, greedy. Mama pros.
Well, do you want to tell me about your coffee today?
I just had an iced coffee from Dunkin'.
Ooh. Did
So-
you get anything special in there?
No, I do 2 pumps of French vanilla with oat milk and a medium.
Oh.
And it's the perfect amount of sweet. Super tasties. But for the month of August, they were doing, if you ordered ahead on Wednesdays, you got 100 bonus points.
Wow.
So it was Wednesday.
I wasn't paying attention to that. So
Yeah.
I don't know how or why. I get all of their stuff. Like I get their emails, I get their notifications. and
How'd you
all-
not get that?
I don't know. I might have. I just probably ignored it because I also get like notifications from the Human Being and BlackRock and Starbucks
Oh,
and Dutch Bros and so like I get all the coffee promos. So
Sometimes it's a little much.
sometimes I enjoy it. Like I know BlackRock has a kettle corn cold brew, and I'm like, that sounds delicious. I mean,
Kettle corn cold brew?
yeah, but I also love kettle corn. Like
Okay.
it is one of those weird things. Like I've never been a big popcorn person, but if it's kettle corn, I'm there. Like I'm in. I love to buy the gigantic ass bags of kettle corn. You know, when I go places, they are vegan, so it makes me happy.
Nice. I love that for you.
I always feel like that sounds like such a backhanded compliment.
Well, I hate cold brew.
Oh.
And then I don't know if I've even ever had kettle corn,
Ugh,
but just the
it's
thought of it.
tempting.
I
Well,
don't
they
know.
said that you can also get it as a shaken espresso, which I didn't know they did there.
Oh my.
But this is something I need to try.
Do it. I randomly
will.
get like those $2 off coupons from BlackRock, but they're
Right.
only good for like a day or two,
Right.
and they don't tell you when they're going to expire. So I always miss it.
Rude.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. What did you
But
drink today?
Today, so in honor of the upcoming fall season that I am trying to manifest so hard, I have a bunch of pumpkin spice creamers in my fridge now Yes. So
What
I got
brand?
a silk one and a Chobani plant-based one. I remember a couple of years ago, the Chobani plant-based one was the best thing I'd ever had. And then I couldn't find it anywhere. And so when I saw it, when I went to the grocery store with my mom recently, I was like, I need this now. I know that I currently have pumpkin spice in my fridge, but I need another one because I don't know if I will ever be able to find this again.
Did you stock up?
Hopefully, just the one. I didn't think that far ahead, mostly because I was like, I don't know how long this will actually last in my fridge.
Yeah, you never know with creamers.
Yeah, they're hit or miss sometimes. But
Very true.
I've started making like giant gallon size things of cold brew in my fridge. And so I just added it to that, and it's delicious.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'm pretty sure that we are watching. Hold on, let me take it back a note. So today's movie is Spike Lee's School Days from 1988. Thought we'd kick off September, right, by going back to school. Here's me silently vomiting, but
What?
because I
Why?
never want to go back to school ever again.
Oh, okay. And also it depends on what part of like the country you're in. Because
Yeah.
some like out here we start back in August. I know
Right.
like in Michigan they start in September. So who knows?
Yeah, it all varies, but September is generally time for school. So we're doing school days. And I wanted to know, because I'm pretty sure, but I'm not entirely sure, and I gotta ask you, do you have a history with this movie?
No, I have never seen this movie before. When you mentioned it, I thought it was just a full blown comedy. When I was watching it, I was like, nope. And then I actually read on what it was, and I was like, oh, okay.
You're like a little different.
Then I watched it. I'm like, this is a musical. I was like, what?
Well, and then we'll get into it as we go through the
Yeah.
movie too. But much like Yentl, I'm like, does this really count as a musical? I don't know. So
Yeah. Well, Yentl, I think we said because she was like the only one singing to herself
Yeah.
the whole time. But this
Yeah.
one, like everybody was like in it. At least
Yeah,
in one of the scenes.
in one of the scenes, yes, there's
It was a
one song that is
full-blown
absolutely,
Musical number.
Yeah. but the rest of it is more of like school performances or like dances with people
Yeah.
performing. And so I'm like, that's not really musical to me, like musical-esque, you know,
Who knows?
but we'll
What
see.
qualifies.
Yeah. I also had never seen this movie beforehand, but you know me and my 80s movies, I love to watch them. So I was like, perfect, let's do this.
Yay. Okay.
So, as I think I mentioned, this movie was directed by Spike Lee. And Spike Lee was born on March 20th. So he was the last day of Pisces. And birth name is Shelton Jackson Lee. So I don't know where Spike came in.
I know, I was just about to ask what inspired Spike.
I could not tell you. And to be completely honest, from a little kid growing up, you know, you've got like the Stan Lee movies, which are all the superhero movies. And then I heard of Spike Lee and I got very confused for a very long time. I was like, is this the same person? Is it a different person? But to be fair, I didn't look it up before. So now I know. They're
Yeah.
very different.
Very different people.
Very different people. So he was born in Atlanta, Georgia. And when he was young, he moved away from pre-civil rights Atlanta, Georgia to Brooklyn, New York. And then as a young adult, he went back to Atlanta to attend school at Morehouse College. And then he developed his filmmaking skills at Clark Atlanta University. And after graduating from Morehouse, he attended the Tisch School of Arts graduate film program. So here's where he developed a lot more shorts and films before he really launched into Spike Lee, where he, in 1986, made She's Gotta Have It, which is a comedy about sexual relationships, and earned $7 million at the box office. And then from there, he was able to launch his career, but also his own production company that he has named 40 Acres and Mule to mirror the promise after the Emancipation Proclamation that all enslaved people were supposed to be promised 40 acres and mule. So his next movie is what we're covering today, School Daze. This film is set at a historically black school and is focused mostly on the conflict between the school and the fraternities, of which he is a strong critic for, and he portrays them in this film as materialistic, irresponsible, and uncaring. With the profits that he gained from School Daze, he went on to make his landmark film, Do the Right Thing, in 1989, and this movie is actually based on his own neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York. Since then, Spike Lee's career has continued to soar, and he's continued to make award-winning movie after award-winning movie, including Malcolm X, He Got Game, Inside Man, and Four Little Girls, which we talked about briefly when we discussed Martin Luther King. What was the movie that we discussed? Selma. Yeah, when we discussed Selma. Some common traits of Spike Lee's directorial style is that he frequently casts himself in his films. And I like to think of this as, Spike Lee walked so Taika Waititi could run. But he also likes to employ other famous actors such as John Turturro, Samuel Jackson, Delroy Lindo, Kim Director, and Denzel Washington. Another fun fact is he absolutely loves baseball. He often wears a New York Knicks apparel from head to toe when he's directing, and then many of his films also reference baseball teams and their players. Last but not least, he was voted the 48th greatest director of all time by Entertainment Weekly.
Oh, that's so cool.
The cast of School Daze includes none other than Spike Lee himself, as we mentioned, and Lawrence Giancarlo Esposito. Samuel Jackson is in this for a brief moment. Tisha Campbell, Joe Seneca, Jasmine Guy, Kime, which is like Alicia, or not Alicia, Aaliyah.
Oh.
I was thinking of like people who only have their first names,
Yeah, that's why I went with Eve.
Oh, I didn't know who Eve was. So.
Yeah.
And then we've also got Kadeem Hardison, Ozzie Davis, Roger Gunver Smith, and Art Evans, and so many more. Ask you if you wanted to do the 10 out of 10 rating.
Oh, yes. Alrighty. So the 10 out of 10. If you aren't Black and/or you didn't go to an all-Black university, you might not get it. Spike pegged this. He couldn't get it all in, but he was darn close. The light-skinned versus the dark-skinned, exclusionary syndrome perpetrated by Black Greeks to non-Greeks, homecoming, the sweaty and hot parties, thrift resentment between lower-class local Blacks and the students, sexuality. It was great. Unfortunately, my main man Spike failed to make it universal. So if you ain't what I mentioned in my one-line summary, you might not get it. God bless the ones that try to understand the mentality instead of dogging out the man's obvious and enormous filmmaking talent.
I thought this was a really great encompassing review of this movie.
Of what this movie was. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So if you didn't know and you've never heard of this movie, that kind of encapsulates it in a very short review, but we will go ahead and we will explain more of what happens. But the 1 out of 10, which I do have to mention, is the only 1 out of 10 that I found.
Oh.
Says, what a boring movie and worthless. Oh God, this movie doesn't deserve a review or even a comment. Stupidity and dull is all that movie about. The most boring movie I ever saw. I turned it off after half an hour. Because my time is priceless, more than this garbage. Not recommended at all.
Okay.
That was a mouthful. Once again, we do our best to try and read these how they were written. And
It's a struggle. I know. It sounds like we're like, skipping over our words, but really it's their fault. Let's do it.
Awesome. Okay, so we start off with the movie opening on "I'm Building Me a Home" over vignettes of Black history. So we see all these different parts of Black history in the first opening credit. And then we land on a title card. It says Friday, Mission College, founded 1883, homecoming weekend. So we have a time, we have a place, we have the setting, and we know the background of what is about to happen.
Set the stage.
At this time, we're seeing some free Mandela signs. And by the late 80s, in case you want a history review, the South African economy was struggling with the effects of the internal and external boycotts, as well as the burden of its military commitment in occupying Namibia. So that gives you a little bit of an idea. It's also the time of apartheid. I believe Mandela was in jail at this time. So a lot of strife is happening within South Africa. So that is the main protest that's happening within the film itself. And then during this protest, we see a group of young men all dressed the same, and they're coming to disrupt the protest itself. We learn that these are the Gamites, and they are led by Julian, played by Giancarlo Esposito, and they are trying to pledge for Gamma Phi Gamma. So this is where we learn that Julian and Dap have some major beef with each other. Like, as soon as they see each other, they basically go to each other's throats. And Julian tells Dap that this needs to stop. Meanwhile, Dap retorts that Julian needs to wake up. And that will be a running theme throughout this movie as well. Like, the phrase wake up will happen periodically throughout the film. So during this beef between Julian and Dap, the student body president named Virgil comes to break them up. After they've officially been broken up and everybody's agreed to go their own separate ways, the Gamites get on the ground and they begin to act like dogs. So they're all chained together too. They all have like this chain leash that leads to Julian. And
So is this do you think this is already interrupt? Like,
no,
do you
you're
think
good.
it's an exaggeration on how they force people who are initiating into these sororities and frats? They make them like it's degrading like this. Never met anybody who was in a sorority or in a frat. Have you?
I haven't either. Actually, that's not true. My friend Kylie was in a sorority, but I never had any experience with sororities or frats because I went to school online.
Yep.
But have you ever seen the movie Accepted?
No.
Okay. So during that movie, there's also some fledge hazing, if you will, too, where some of it's just embarrassing. But I don't know exactly all the ins and outs. If anybody has any sorority and fraternity experience that they'd like to share with us, feel free to email us at caffeinatedflix@gmail.com.
Yeah.
But so they act like dogs and they start to leave the protest itself. Everybody starts to break up. And we see that there's also a sorority associated with Gamma Phi Gamma, and they are called the Gamma Rays. And one of the leading ladies, Jane, is Julian's girlfriend. After everybody's broken up and they're being told to go to class, we see Rachel come up to Dap, and Rachel is Dap's girlfriend. Dap is visually flustered, and she's trying to calm him down, tell him, Julian's not worth it. Don't waste your breath on him. But, he's just not having it. So they go their separate ways for the day. Here, we then cut to Gamma Phi Gamma, or the G Phi G house. And the Gamites, who are the pledges, are having to address each one of the frat brothers in complete unison. And each one of them has like their own nickname and like song and motion and dance that kind of comes with their name themselves. And it's just a wild time. So, and not everybody's going to be able to make it through, but he's not sure who. And so as he goes down the line of the Gamites, we find out each one of their nicknames, and he's trying to sniff them out, He's like, are you going to make it? are you going to make it? And then he stops at Half Pint, who's played by Spike Lee. And he picks on him because he's 5'5".
I love how like he made fun of his height, but he himself is not much taller. He's a short guy.
He's not a very tall man.
I know.
No. Well, and then it gets even worse because then he's like, "You're a virgin. I'm not having any virgins in the Gamma house."
Oh Lord. Yeah.
So it's just ridiculous. But it's one of those things where, for one, this is the late 80s and, you know, not being a virgin is a big deal, you know, especially as a man.
Masculinity at its finest.
Yep. Got to be getting that sex. So Julian tells Half Pint, "Go find you a Gamma Ray." So then they break up. Half Pint then goes to the library, and we see that he's meeting up with Dap. And we find out here that they're cousins, but Half Pint tells them, you know, we can't be seen together. You know, we know that you hate G5G and they hate you as well. So we can't be seen together. But he needs Dap's help because he is in over his head. He has no idea how to get a lady, apparently. So he's asking him, like, what is it that I need to do in order to get a lady? I'm supposed to do this tonight. And Dap is just like, you go up to them, be yourself. And he's like, oh, wait, don't be yourself. Lie and do what you normally do. And then they've come up with the admin office. So the chairman of the board is talking to the dean of the school about the protests that have been happening. And he's saying, you know, the other board members are none too happy about these protests that are happening. They don't like being told where to spend their money. So you're going to have to nip this in the bud. Otherwise, the board members are going to start to take their money elsewhere. And so it's a pretty heavy threat if you're in higher education. Then we cut back to Dap, and he's with his friends in his dorm room, which he shares with Grady, who's played by Bill Nunn. And he can't convince them to go out that night. So he's like, fine, first thing tomorrow morning, I'm waking your asses up at 7 a.m. Now we see the dichotomy of somebody who's really focused on pledging and somebody who's really focused on protests and social issues and not pledging and basically the anti-pledge. Here, we turn back to Half Pint. He's made it to the Gamma Ray house. And first, he enters the Gamma Ray house. A young lady comes and approaches him, greets him into the house. They go and they sit on the couch, and he's trying to use line after line. And we just see the first girl, and then him use another line on another girl, and then another line on another girl, and then another line on another girl, to which this last one's like, you're so tiny, I could break you in half.
So the first girl actually agrees to go out with him. It was nice, yeah. But she's like, oh, maybe like, what did she say? Like in a couple days or something, a movie or something.
Yeah.
He's like, that's not going to work. How about right now? She was very forward and pushing. She's like, I don't even know you.
I don't know you from John.
Yeah.
It was just so silly. But yes.
And then he used that Zoolander face. What is it called?
Oh, the duck face?
Yeah. He tried using that on one of the girls.
Oh my gosh. All in all, his quest is a flop. It's an absolute flop. So he returns to the Gamma Rays. Then we see the Gamma Rays. They've all convened and they're trying to identify, like, okay, we're going to throw this party, but where are we going to throw it? Who's going to put up the money? And then they decide, okay, we're going to have it at G5G, and we're going to put up the money because we have the money from the bake sale. We're hosting it. They're just having it at their place, and this is how we're doing it. So, as I mentioned previously, Jane, who's Julian's girlfriend, is like the head of the Gamma Rays. So, after they've all agreed to the terms of this party, the Gamma Rays go to leave, and they run into another group of girls. So, this is set in a beauty shop, and we have two different groups. The wannabes, who are the Gamma Rays, and I'm only going to say this once, the jigaboos. And this is because this is an offensive, outdated term, and it's a contemptuous term mostly for Black people, for a Black person. And so they have decided, okay, you're the wannabes and you're the jiggaboos. And so this song is them going back and forth, picking at each other, specifically their hair.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you got this or not, but it really reminded me a lot of Grease when they have their musical number in the beauty shop too.
I feel like, I don't know, I feel like we did watch Grace recently, but I feel like I was in and out of it because I feel like I actually haven't seen Grace like fully. And then Billy and I
really?
watched it recently and we were like, oh my God, why is this? But no, I didn't catch that reference.
I had friends in like elementary school who were obsessed with Grease. And so we watched Grease. My brain will always go to, look at me, I'm Sandra Dee.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So just reminding me a bit of Grease.
Yeah. I was going to mention that I think it's important to point out also that the gamma rays, the people in their group are much fair skinned
They
as
are.
opposed to the other group, and they tend to have more curly hair as opposed to the other group who they wear their hair naturally. It's their more natural coarse hair. As opposed to
Right.
our
And-
girls. I think it was mentioned that like they wear extensions or something like that. But yeah, so
Right. Yeah. And through the song itself, they actually do mention like fair or dark skin, different styles of hair itself, and just ragging on one another for apparently not being quote unquote good enough because of how the other one looks. So, but we see this throughout as well. And I know that I had mentioned to you previously that I wanted to get your take because I know that this is one of those concepts of the light skin or lighter skin versus darker skin kind of contention and tension within different.
yeah, so it's a perfect example of colorism. That's very
Yeah.
popular within the Black community, but also the Latino community too.
Right. Right. And I, even within the Asian community too, like the whiter you are, the paler you
Oh.
are, the more like, I don't know, pretty, more beautiful you are is
Yeah.
what it is.
Mhm.
So like they've got all sorts of different sunscreens and they wear all sorts of things to make
Yeah,
sure that their skin.
bleach, you need like mhm,
Yeah.
bleach creams. And personally, I've never experienced that, or I've been just completely oblivious to it. But I do recall having a friend in high school. I think I've mentioned it before, who her mom was, you know, she would comment when she noticed she was getting darker. She
Aw.
pulled her out of sports once because she was getting too dark. I'm pretty sure at some point she would, you know, have her use like, or tried getting her to use like some bleach creams. And she wasn't even like a dark Latina. Like she was just
Oh my God.
tan. I know. Yeah. But her mom was very fair skinned. And so,
Oh.
yeah. So it was pretty sad.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we see that in this movie, gamma rays. They're in what looks like an alleyway, and they're all in the same sweatsuit essentially, and they're being told to like drop their drawers and get spanked by this giant paddle, and then they have like these specific lines that they're supposed to say. It's very odd.
It was very, I was like, what is happening?
I know. So then we cut back to Rachel and her roommates, and they're trying to get her to go out with them, but she's just not having it. They specify that she hasn't seen anybody else but Dap since they started college, and it's made known that they're seniors now. So she's only been with Dap the whole time, and she's like, "No, it's fine. I love Dap. Everything's great." After she asks him, you know, "Hey, I want to spend some time with you." And his response is that he's probably going to be tied up all night, which you always want to hear.
Right.
So we get another performance, and this is by a few of the Gamma Rays, led by Jane. And this song title is Be Alone Tonight. And I honestly think that this is one of my favorite songs throughout the whole movie. I think it's a very fun song, and their dresses are also very pretty in the song.
Yes.
So,
Mhm.
but then we cut back to Rachel, and she must have convinced Dap to change his mind because we turn to them back in his room. He is spraying the hell out of his room because his roommate Grady apparently needs it to smell like a locker room in there, is what he says.
Yeah. She walks in. She's like, damn, did you have to use the whole can? It just hit her like, what a brick.
I do not blame her. But anyway, so they go back to his room and, they have a conversation, and Rachel suggests that Dap might have a problem with some light skinned blacks. And he's like, no, I don't. But he clearly does because of the way that he treats others. But they make up in this conversation. They start laughing with one another, and then they go to Bone Town.
Yeah, they do. And the song that was playing in the background, it turned into another solo performance. I was so confused. I'm like, what is happening?
Yep, that is true. It's a weird dichotomy where it's like they're boning, and then you cut to this almost music video, and then they're boning, and then it cuts back to the music video, and then they're boning, and then it cuts back to the music video. So after they're done boning, Rachel tells Dap that she's going to pledge to a sorority. And this sends him straight into a tizzy. He hates fraternities and sororities so much, and he flat out says she is definitely not going to get his support, and that everybody changes for the worse when they pledge. So he's a little rough around the edges there.
But I don't feel like he had that same reaction for his cousin.
I know. It's made known that apparently he's very upset that Julian pledged. And so we don't really get the background on that, but maybe we're meant to get the idea that they used to be friends.
But I think we got background info.
We did not. I'm doing a little bit more work for the movie than it probably deserves for that. But she calls him Vaughn. We find out that his real name's Vaughn. And she gets up, gets dressed, and before leaving tells him, I have wondered if you're really with me because I'm one of the darkest sisters on campus.
Oh.
So
she said it. I'm glad she did.
She did. It needed to be said.
Yep.
So then we cut to Julian and Jane. Jane just slowly takes off her performance dress, and then they also bone down.
This scene was so disturbing. There was so much tongue, but there was so much tongue on his. And what I know about like coarse hair products, they use a lot of like oils. And I was just thinking, oh my God, she's licking all of that up. I was so grossed out in this scene.
Oh my gosh. I'm not going to lie. So I watched this movie twice in order to prepare for this.
Yeah.
And the second time around, I just like skipped through. I was like, I don't need to see any more of this.
I don't need to expose myself to this again.
I'm like, they boned down. That's all you need to know.
They got freaky.
I think he might have like a G tattoo or something like that on his chest. I'm like, how in depth into this fraternity are you?
It looked okay because it looked like it had some texture. So when like they like burn those like initials on, that's what it looked like to me, and I was like, oh my gosh,
that's a whole nother level of pledging.
Yeah,
I'm not into.
No, thank you. I was like, yeah, that's intense.
So they're finally done with that, and we cut to the next day, and there's a parade in town. And it's being hosted by Mission College. G5D has their own float. The Gamma Rays have their own float. There are a couple of different floats. And we see that right behind the G5G float, Dap and his protesters have a banner, and they're walking behind the G5G float. And they're yelling out, divest now. And the front of the actual banner itself also says divest now. And so they're continuing to protest what's happening in South Africa. And the fact that Mission College is still financially supporting South Africa. So Julian jumps out of the float and confronts Dap. They're starting to get heated when all of a sudden Virgil, the class president again, cuts into their argument, relaying that Dap never got permission for the permits to participate in the parade. And then Dap and Julian disregard him entirely and continue to have it out until Virgil completely snaps. He all out yells at them. And Dap's like, damn, man. All right, give Virgil the banner. Come on, let's go. As we mentioned up top, this is homecoming weekend, and you can't have homecoming weekend without a homecoming football game. So we're at the homecoming football game. They are the Mission Tigers, and we've come to find out that they have lost every single homecoming for the last 4 years. And this game does not look like it's doing any better. So they are continuing their losing streak. And while at this game, Dap loses his shit and he gets outraged at their loss. And due to his actions, gets called into the administration's office.
Is this a Christian school? Well, that coach was really relying on his faith. He's like, the other team, those are the devils. I'm like, okay.
That's how you have to phrase everything. Everything's a war. Everything's a battle. Good versus evil, you know?
Names. I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh. So in the administration's office, Dap is given the choice. He can either stop protesting or be expelled in his senior year. So quite a heavy choice there. He gets back to his dorm room and he tries to call Rachel. And we cut to Rachel and she's not having it. She's like, let it ring. Nope. I'm not crawling back to him, as she should. And here's where we've come to find out that she tells her roommates that she's planning to pledge, and they are surprised as hell. They're like, funny, you decide now to pledge halfway through senior year. And she's like, what are you talking about? I always want to do what I want to do. And they're like, no, you don't.
That does seem pretty late to pledge as a senior. I'm wondering, like, what is the point of that?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure. And we don't ever find out why she wants to pledge. Mm-hmm. Just all of a sudden she does. And they ask her, you know, like, what kept you from doing it until now? And she's like, oh, well, you know, I was worried about what Dap would think. Roommate Grady, who I mentioned before, Dap and his friends, including his roommate Grady, who I mentioned before, is played by El Noon. And they're discussing that if he continues to protest the South Africa divestment, he'll be expelled. And he's trying to plead with them. He's like, I need your guys' backs. I need you to help me out through this. I can't do this by myself. And they suddenly start to clam up. They're like, oh, well, if you're getting threatened with expulsion, what do you think will happen to us? You know, we're just here so that way we can get educated, so we can get a job. Like, what's wrong with having a good job? What's wrong with having a good life? And Dap can't believe what he's hearing. He's bridled by the fact that his friends would rather just lay low and graduate than continue to protest this social issue that means so much to him.
Yeah, I think one of them mentioned too that he was the very first in his family to go to college and that how important it is for them. And so he's clearly just not understanding that perspective, which I found frustrating on his part too.
Right. He's very focused in one direction.
It's very, he has tunnel vision at this point.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's an excellent way to put that. So he tells them, you know, to leave, to get out of his room. And after he's closed the door, they knock on the door and he's like, what do you guys want? And he's like, do you want to come get some KFC with us?
Food resolves everything.
It does. It really does.
It does. Us too.
I wonder if we would end more wars if we just had more banquets.
If we had more what?
Banquets.
Oh, yeah, probably. I know when Billy and I get into it, he'll always try to resolve it. Or a lot of times with like coffee. He'll bring me a coffee. Or he's like, want to pick you up some food? Or we should go out to eat. And that's always resolved it.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Everything.
Food does fix everything. It's not just the way to a man's heart. Yes. It's also the way to a woman's heart.
Yes. I would say even more so for women.
I think so. Especially if they don't have to cook it. Exactly. Just saying. So as soon as they get to KFC, they end up getting into an argument with a group of local black men. And this is where we see Samuel L. Jackson.
Over salt, man. Well, it started with
over salt.
And then escalated.
Yes. And this is where we get to see that tension that the reviewer had mentioned between educated, those who are going to school, and, you know, local, non-educated, those who did not go to college. because, we hear them say, you're just trying to be a white man. You're just trying to be this, that, and the other. And Dap and his gang are just like, what are you talking about? We are not any better than you. But Samuel L. Jackson and his gang are just like, nope, we see you guys come in here all the time. You come to school and then you take all of our jobs. And so this seems to be something that we even hear now,
Oh, yeah. I've mentioned before that in my job searches, like they want, full on bachelor's and master degrees for customer service jobs and front desk positions. I'm like, what?
Makes no sense.
It really doesn't. So yeah, it's definitely something that's still occurring today.
Yeah. So on their way back from KFC, see somebody along the side of the road and tells the guys to pull over, and he gets out to go talk to Julian. Here is where he tells Julian, you're going to pledge my cousin. And this is where we also hear once again, boy, you need to check your alarm clock and wake up, as he says to Julian after they fought about whether or not his cousin can pledge. So then we cut to what appears to be like a school assembly.
Yeah, that's what it looks
with
like.
different groups.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just like, is this Rush? I think this might be Rush, like an example of Rush where, the different fraternities and sororities promote their Greek lives to the student body. So
I know it's like a more modern version, but it was giving Stomp the Yard vibes.
yes,
Do you
I
remember
got that
movie?
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I'm sure
Yeah.
I don't know, but I'm sure that movie maybe got some inspiration from this movie. Possibly.
I would not doubt it.
Yeah.
So here we see different groups performing: A Phi A, Deltas, Gamma Rays, G Phi G. And then, lo and behold, we got Dap and his boys who've called themselves Fellas Phi Fellas. And they do quite the performance number. They are basically saying, Greek life is not all that it's chalked up to be in this little number of theirs. And then once they're about to leave the stage, they get into a fight with the G Phi G folks. So
As they're like walking off their stage, it looked like they were like pulling the hair of like the Gamma Rays, some of the girls, and I was
oh my
like,
gosh.
what is happening? And then, the other group came in and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my. I
So,
totally
yeah,
missed that
it
part.
was something.
Well, this causes G Phi G to be completely royally pissed, and all they can think about is how they want retaliation. But Julian reminds them that they can't retaliate because, one, they have to focus on the pledges that are happening that night, and two, they can't risk getting shut down. So they're talking about the next orders of business, and one of the guys says, we need to see some new Gamma Rays. And once again, this is the sorority that mirrors Gamma Phi Gamma. And they're like, we need some fresh meat. None of them are really turners. They don't really turn an eye, with the exception. And then Julian says, we don't need anyone. You don't know. I'm breaking up with her tonight. And she's going to be fair game after this. So a little bit of a plot.
Yeah.
Little bit of a shitty dude. Even more shitty, we will find out.
Oh.
So after the assembly, we see that Dap has gone over to Rachel's dorm and is calling out to Rachel from outside her window in a very classic, say anything kind of way, or throwing pebbles up at the window kind of way.
I love this.
And
It was so funny.
the scene is great.
I loved it. Yeah.
Go for it. Do you want to go ahead and explain it? Because I don't think I'll do it justice, honestly.
Oh no, you're good. But no, it's just really entertaining as opposed.
It's so funny.
Yeah,
it's so
'cause
funny.
You've got like the rest of everyone else, all of the other girls that come out of their windows, except with the exception of what's their face because they turned off the lights. And so basically, they're just like giving him shit the whole time. Someone dumps water on him at some point. I didn't really
Essentially,
put down what they said exactly.
like-
I don't know if you did. They all just
They're
want
like-
panties or something like that.
yes. Men just want one thing. They just want some
I
panties.
just want some panties.
So after he gets a bucket of water dumped on him, Rachel heads downstairs and they make up, and she tells him, you know, you need to stop being so judgmental. And so they go back to his place to get him all dried up. They do not bone down this time because he tries to play a fast move on her, but she's like, "Nuh-uh, we're not doing this."
Nope.
And he's like, "All right, sorry." So we've turned back to the Gamlites. They are enduring their final tests of pledging. So first thing that they are seen doing is, for one, holding up these torches of fire for what looked like hours on end. And then they're eating dog food. They're blindfolded and shoved into the next restroom and then told to put their hands in their toilet and squish bananas. And then while they're holding torches still, Julian and all of them are still giving half-hearted shit about being a virgin. They're like, "Come on, name 2 women that you slept with." And he can't think of anybody. And they're like, "See, you're a virgin." And so the whole thing, it's a whole to-do. But all 8 of the pledges make it through these tests. Are quote-unquote deemed Gamma Phi Gamma men. So now we cut to a gymnasium. I believe their homecoming dance, but as a pool-themed party.
Yeah, it was a bit confusing.
Yep. But, you know, they're having a gay old time. Like, I'll tell you that.
There you go.
There's a movie that precedes this one. It's called Real Genius. It's got Val Kilmer and Gabrielle Jarrett in it. And there's also a pool party scene indoors that this reminds me of. I'm just like, oh gosh. But there's a very prominent song that plays during this dance, and it's called "Da Butt" by Experience Unlimited, EU. And I honestly can't help but wonder if this is where Sir Mix-a-Lot got inspiration for Baby Got Back.
Who knows? I have no idea who that is, though.
I know Sir Mix-a-Lot?
No,
Okay. Yeah, Experience Unlimited.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I've never heard of them either until this, so. But it's a romp, I'll tell you that much. It was ranked number 61 on VH1's 100 Greatest One-Hit Wonders of the 80s.
That's a mouthful. Yeah.
I know. So while at this party, Grady sees a woman from across the room and pursues her. So everyone in the movie is dancing. After the butt, we get another song performed, and it's called "The One." And we see everybody dancing in different scenes across the campus. So we see Julian and Jane dancing. We see everybody in the party dancing. We see Daph and Rachel dancing. And this is a much slower song, so it's just a nice slow dance song that everybody's dancing to. We cut back to Julian and Jane. They're meeting in a dark hallway, essentially. He exclaims, "You're going to have to prove it." Doesn't tell her how, but just takes her hand, leads her back downstairs. He walks straight up to Half Pint and says, "I am going to bestow upon you the greatest honor as a Gamma man. Here, you get to sleep with Jane."
Or
So gross.
so nasty.
So then the whole frat takes Half Pint and Jane to the designated bone room.
They have a legit
And then these
bone room
actually called that.
and a bone on the door. I was like, oh my god, this is ridiculous.
Yeah. So this is not what Jane signed up for, because she is in tears.
Yeah, she is. I was really hoping that they would pull like an Easy A and like
Yeah.
fake it. But
Right.
It doesn't
Yeah.
appear so. And so I'm like,
No.
oh gosh.
Then we cut to Grady with the woman that he picked up. They're walking back from the dance, and she's like, "Hey, can we get some food?" And he's like, "No, let's go back to my room. Let's go back to my room." And she's like, "Yes, but I want some food. Like, I'll do whatever you want as long as you give me some food."
Yes. Once again, food is very
But-
important.
Food is very important. They finally make it back to Grady's room. She asks, "Hey, is your roommate still here?" And he's like, "Oh, nah, he's not here." They get into the room, And just as they're making out, she notices that the other van is starting to move. And she's like, what? You lied to me. And so she's like, I'll call you later. And she is out of there.
She bounces.
Yep. So next, we got back to outside of the bone room where the frat brothers are all waiting outside the door. And finally, the two come out, and it's implied that they've done it. But she's got mascara running all down her face. And Half Pint is like, oh, I'll be a gentleman and I'll walk her to her car. And he goes to kiss her on the cheek, and she's like, don't even touch me. Like, don't consider yourself that lucky. So she walks away. Everybody else walks away. Julian catches up with Jane. They go back into the hallway. And Jane tells him, I did it. And he's like, wait, what? You actually did it? How could you? This was a test. You failed. Goodbye. We are done. We are through. And she is left there to cry. But this was his plan all along. So Half Pint is excited that this happened. And he runs straight to Dapp's room. It is apparently 5 o'clock in the morning because Grady opens the door, completely irritated. And he's like, what are you doing knocking on our door at 5 o'clock in the morning? So he goes back inside. Half Pint continues to knock on the door until Dapp comes out, and he finally does. And Half Pint's like, I did it. I slept with a woman. And Dapp is at first very excited about it. And then Half Pint's like, oh yeah, I slept with Janie. And Dapp's like, you slept with Julian's girl? And he is flabbergasted. How could you turn into such a piece of shit? Can't believe you would have done this. And so this just more solidifies the fact that once somebody pledges, they change, and not for the better. So from here, Dapp runs all over campus, screaming, wake up. He's going into people's room. Last line in the movie is, wake up. And that's the end of the movie. Yeah. What a wild movie.
Yeah, that is for sure. This was a movie.
So I would argue that this movie does pass the Bechdel test because there's an entire song where named women are just ragging on each other.
Yeah, so technically I guess it does, but
I didn't say it had to be nice. I just said that it happens.
You got the girls who are talking to each other about joining the sorority. So
right,
that's not ragging, and that's not about boys. So I'm going to consider that one the official.
So a little bit of fun trivia. Vanessa Williams was originally considered for the role of Jane. However, Spike Lee was impressed by Tisha Campbell's singing in Little Shop of Horrors in 1986.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm going to have to pull that up right now.
She is gorgeous.
I don't know who that is.
And once you see her, you'll know that you've seen her before. I don't know what I've seen her in, but she's in 1,000 things.
Okay. Internet slow. Doesn't want to work. Gonna have to pull it up on my phone. I know, right? What a letdown.
There you go.
Oh, I pulled it. Oh, yep. Ugly Betty is a good one. She's fun.
Oh, yes. She was in Ugly Betty.
Yeah. Yes. She was the main character in that. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Yeah. She's gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Yeah. And she's in a lot of other things that I've never seen before, but she's amazing. And then another piece of trivia. Thanks to Columbia Pictures executive David B. Picker, Spike Lee got final cut rights for the film, which is very rare for directors. And I looked it up. I was like, what is a final cut right? And a final cut privilege or a final cut right is a film industry term, usually meaning that the right of a director to make final approval of any edits.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because you hear a lot from directors saying that they have to really fight for certain parts of movies to be in the final cut. So that's really awesome for him.
Yeah. You have to oblige by studio notes and so on. In the DVD commentary of School Days, Tisha Campbell said that the blonde dye damaged her hair so badly that she actually had to cut it out.
I believe it. That was I wasn't sure if that was her actual hair or not, but that sucks to hear that it was.
So then Lawrence Fishburne, Giancarlo Esposito, and Leonard L. Thomas would appear together again in the crime drama 1990's King of New York.
I have not seen it.
I haven't either. Alton Brown, who I absolutely freaking adore, who hosted Good Eats, was the Steadicam operator for this film.
Oh,
Yeah, and he was also part of the production of an REM music video too. And then last but not least, the last words spoken in this film that have been said throughout this film, "Wake Up," are also the very first words spoken in Spike Lee's next film, "Do the Right Thing."
ooh.
That is all the trivia. Celeste, on our caffeine scale of 1 to 5 espresso shots, how stimulated did this movie keep you? 1, you were falling asleep. 5, you were buzzing.
Oh man. I want to say 4. You know what? As far as buzzing, I'm going to say 5 because this movie was like, there was a lot going on in this movie. Oh,
There was so much
there
going
was
on.
so much constantly where like you were constantly like, what is happening? It was almost whiplashy.
Yes.
It did cover a lot. I will say that as far as, you know, issues within the Black community or colored community. But I'm going to give it, I almost want to give it a 4 just because there were, you know, a few spots that did not age well at all. Were being so I'm going to go 4.5.
I hear you on that. Yeah, I did really enjoy this movie. It's, to me, a good romp. And it does kind of make fun of fraternities and sororities in a specific way. But the music's really good also. And then it's always good for me as, you know, basic white girl. Over here, it's good for me to learn and see different points of view and to understand like how other cultures and groups interact with one another, to gain a little bit more insight and more empathy for what's happening in the world. So I always appreciate that.
Love that.
Yeah. And so I do want to give it about 4.5 as well. I'm going to go 4.25. I'm going to be really specific because I did think that this was really fun. I think we do get, you know, complicated versions of people. Absolutely. And you get to learn more about different racial tensions that you might not know about if you're not a part of that group. But it's also still fun. It's light enough, but also hits what matters.
Yeah, you don't
at the same time.
typically get a lot of movies that focus on the racial tensions within a single race. Usually we're crossing over other races. So
Do you have any final thoughts on this?
I think I'm donezo. Do you have any final
I do.
thoughts?
I do. For a quick second, when Grady is talking to the girl that he's interested at the homecoming dance, she's not talking at all to him, but he's just gabbing and gabbing away. He's like, "What sign are you? I can't swim a lick, and I'm a Pisces."
Oh my-
So there are lots of fun lines in this also.
Yeah.
I think that this is one of those films that people should see at least once.
Yes, definitely. I think, yeah, I would recommend this film.
Cool.
For sure. Thank you for listening to another episode of Caffeinated Flicks. We're a self-published podcast produced and edited by Kenzie.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what films you'd like us to cover, what we can do better, or just say hi.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can follow us on Instagram at caffeinatedflixpod or email us at caffeinatedflix@gmail.com. We'll catch you on the flick side.